The biggest revenge I ever let myself take looked exactly like kindness. That's exactly why nobody ever figured out what I'd actually done. I married a man I truly loved 7 years ago, and for the first few years, I really believed we were building something solid. He was charismatic, attentive, had this rare talent for making you feel, in a room full of people, like the only person who mattered. It took me a while to realize that talent was never really about me specifically. It was about whoever happened to be standing in the center of his attention at that moment. The first sign showed up sometime in our second year of marriage. Not proof yet, just a feeling, the kind women often learn to talk themselves out of because it doesn't have a shape, just a weight sitting in your chest. He started staying late at work more often, smiling at his phone more often, and at the same time getting colder toward me at exactly the moments when it should have been the opposite, after anniversaries, after especially warm nights together. I didn't know for sure back then, but a few months later I found what settled it for good, a message thread with a woman I'd actually met a few times at mutual gatherings. He didn't beg for forgiveness the way people do when they're genuinely afraid of losing someone. He explained himself like I was just supposed to understand, that routine was killing him, that he needed that feeling of newness, of risk, that particular thrill only something forbidden could give. I forgave him, not because I believed he'd change, but because I wasn't ready yet to admit who exactly I'd married. But from that moment on, I saw him differently, not as someone who'd made one mistake, but as someone with a specific kind of hunger no single source could ever satisfy for long. Over the following years, there were a few more incidents. I didn't always catch him red-handed. Sometimes I just felt it, the same cycle. Fascination, then coldness toward me, then a sudden return of warmth once the novelty with someone else wore off and he went looking for stability at home again. I learned to recognize that rhythm so well I could have predicted the next phase down to the week. What got to me most wasn't that he cheated. It was how flawlessly he kept up the image of the good husband in front of everyone else. My family adored him. Friends thought we were the model couple. And my younger sister, Danielle, always looked at our marriage with a little envy, saying more than once how lucky I was, how she wished she could find someone even half that attentive. I never told her the truth. At first out of shame, then out of some instinct I couldn't fully explain. Like confessing to my own sister would make my situation permanently, irreversibly real. Then I started noticing what I'd been consciously refusing to see. How he'd always light up whenever Danielle came over. How his eyes stayed on her a little longer than family relationships would really explain. How he suddenly started suggesting we all get together more often, and every single time managed to find a reason to seat her right next to him. I knew that look. I'd seen it plenty of times before, aimed at other women. And this time, instead of pain or panic, I felt something unexpected, a cold, almost clinical clarity. If routine killed him and the forbidden fed him, I had two options. Keep fighting a battle I'd already lost years ago, or finally, do something he'd never see coming. I started analyzing the situation the way you'd analyze someone else's problem, not your own life falling apart. If his hunger only ran on the forbidden, on risk, on that feeling of stealing something from someone, then any attempt to forbid, control, or watch him would only feed it more. But if I removed the forbidden part entirely, if I paradoxically opened the door instead of locking it, maybe that's exactly when the fascination would lose its power. There was another reason too, deeper than any cold psychological calculation. Danielle had always gotten what she wanted in life almost without trying, better grades in school without much effort, more attention from our parents, the affection of boys I'd actually liked myself. I'd stopped consciously envying her a long time ago, but somewhere in the deepest, least noble corner of myself, I carried the exhaustion of always playing the role of the older sister who steps aside. I didn't plan anything dramatic or sudden. Instead, I started changing the smallest details of our everyday life. Everything looked like ordinary circumstances, not a strategy. A sudden work trip would come up right when Danielle was supposed to visit for the weekend. I started mentioning to my husband almost in passing how fun Danielle was, how easy she was to talk to, like I was just making conversation, when really I was opening doors right where he was already looking. I never set them up directly. I just stopped standing in the way. Everything unfolded slower than I expected, and at the same time faster than I'd like to admit. Danielle started texting me more often about running into him by chance. Once in the parking lot near her office, once at a coffee shop nearby. She told me about it with that particular awkwardness of someone who doesn't fully understand what's happening yet, but already feels guilty in advance. I listened carefully, kept the conversation going, never showed the slightest hint of jealousy or suspicion. If anything, when she said, half joking, "He's so attentive, you're so lucky," I'd say something like, "He knows how to make people feel special when they matter to him." A line that sounded like a compliment to my husband, but was actually the most accurate description of his psychology I could have given her. Almost 4 months of this slow drift passed before I saw direct proof. This time, I wasn't even looking for it. It just landed in front of me when I grabbed his phone to take a photo at a family gathering. A text from Danielle, sent an hour earlier, was still open on the screen. I could have made a scene right there at the holiday table, in front of the whole family. Instead, I quietly locked the screen, set the phone down, smiled, and kept the evening going like nothing had happened. A week later, I filed for divorce. No scandal, no public exposure. I just came to him one evening and told him I didn't want to be part of this marriage anymore. He tried, obviously, to understand why now, without any obvious reason on my end. I didn't give him one specific cause, just told him that some things simply run their course. Danielle heard about the divorce from me directly, and in her voice, when she asked if I was okay, if there was a specific reason, I heard for the first time that particular fear of someone worried the reason might involve her too. I told her the reason was strictly between me and my husband, that we'd just grown apart over the years. Technically, that wasn't even a lie. They started seeing each other openly about 6 months after the divorce, a decent enough gap that the family wouldn't take it too hard. Danielle came to tell me herself, clearly bracing for pain, anger, accusations. Instead, I hugged her and told her I wished them happiness. Her relief was so obvious that for a second I actually felt bad for her. 2 years later, I was at their wedding. I smiled in the photos, and I think I was the only one who understood what that moment really was. Not surrender, but release, carefully dressed up as generosity. Almost 3 years have passed since that wedding. I built a new life for myself, quieter, without that constant feeling of competing for my own husband's attention against invisible rivals. Every so often I'd see Danielle at family gatherings, and every time I noticed something familiar in her, the same tension in her shoulders I used to carry myself, the same habit of checking her partner's phone whenever he left the room, pretending she was just looking for something. A few days ago, she showed up at my place unannounced, sat down in the kitchen, and turned her teacup around in her hands for a long time before she said anything. "I think he's cheating on me," she finally said, looking not at me, but at some spot on the wall behind me. "He's been acting weird lately, staying out late, smiling at his phone. Exactly like." She stopped, not finishing the sentence, though we both knew exactly where it was headed. I could have told her the truth right there, about the years of silence, about the messages I'd seen long before she ever came into the picture, about the same cycle I'd learned by heart. Instead, I took her hand, squeezed it gently, and said only this: "You know, some people feel most alive exactly when they have something to hide. The question isn't whether he's cheating on you. The question is what you're going to do with the answer once you know it for sure." She looked at me for a long moment, like she was trying to figure out if I meant that as some general life wisdom or as something much more specific. I didn't give her anything more to go on, just got up, poured us both more tea, and steered the conversation somewhere lighter. That evening, after she left, I sat alone in the kitchen for a long time, looking at the 2 empty cups, thinking that real victory probably isn't about watching someone else lose. It's about finally stepping outside a cycle that once felt like it would never end.